Finish.
இது
Finish.
theory X,
Yeah, finish.
theory
Why
Y.
you finish? Yeah, finish. Expectancy theory. So, students, last class I have moved to the previous slide, Dylan. Idukum previous slide.
This one.
No, previous to this. Yeah. Students, good evening. Not this. The next slide. Yeah. Okay. Good evening, students. So last class
Good
we
evening.
have last class we have did the motivational theories. So I think we learned about the Maslow's hierarchy, and then we learned Hensberg two-factor theory. Then we learned about the McGregor theory X and Y. So today we are going to learn something called expectancy theory. So this is also one of the motivational theories which was introduced by Victor Vroom in the School of Management in 1964. So in this particular theory, so he was identifying, like it says, the expectancy theory states that the employee's motivation is outcome of how much an individual wants and reward. So they are saying, and company's output by the given employee would be out of its expectancy. That means if an employee is expecting this much I will be receiving if I do a certain task or job, so he will be putting an effort to that, so he is working for the reward which he will be getting in the future. So this theory, basically you have to remember, as the name says, as the topic says, expectancy theory, out of the expectation of the employee this particular theory is working out. So Vroom has suggested three beliefs upon this theory. So what are the three beliefs? It's first, it talks about the valence, next the expectancy, next the instrumentality. So all the three are somewhat similar to each other, but there will be a slight difference. So today I will be explaining the balance. So the next slide, please. Okay, now I will be explaining what are the three beliefs which is pointed out in the expectancy theory. So valence. So valence is the significance associated by an individual about the expected outcome. It is an expected and not the actual satisfaction that an employee expect to receive after the achieving goals. So this is about, like, after, now when an employee is working, so he will have a certain expectation what he is going to get out of it. So valence refers to something he has on his imagination or his expectation what the outcome would be. So it says it is an expected and not the actual satisfaction. So really he is not getting that, but he is thinking that he will receive it, and he is imagining I will be getting this, so I have to work for it. So the goal is always moving in achieving that particular reward. Okay, so that's what it clearly says. It is an expected and not the actual satisfaction that an employee expect to receive after the achieving goals. So he is expecting something. When he is expecting that he will be receiving, might be he get that or he doesn't get that. For example, he might expect something and he might not get the satisfaction to the fullest level, because in his expectation he has a lot much, but actually when he is receiving that, it might, sometimes it might be equal, sometimes it not might be equal, right? So next one is the expectancy. So expectancy is the faith that better efforts will result in better performance. So valence is what it is associated by expecting the outcome. So the employee is expecting, if I do this, this I will be getting. That is valence. Expectancy is something he is believing that whatever the effort he is putting to that job, he will result in a better performance. So it says expectancy is the faith that better efforts will receive in better performance. It is influenced by factors such as possession of appropriate skills for performing the job, availability of right resources, availability of crucial information, and getting the required support for completing job. Now the employee wants to do the job in a proper way. So if the employee wants to do the job or the task given in a proper way, he has certain sort of expectation to do the particular job. Okay, so valence, you have to understand what is valence. Valence is the employee is thinking whatever he do after he achieve the goal, he will be getting something. But expectancy is something on the, like on the process itself, what are the expectations he is having. So he's thinking if I have these stuffs, so I will be doing a better job, I will be performing well in my organization. So what are the factors they are saying? They are saying possession for appropriate skills and for performing the job. So they expect that they should develop their skills to do that job. So they expect the management to give them training and development. After that, availability of right resources. In order to fulfill a given task, some employees might need some resources. So the organization has to provide that resources in order to complete that given task. After that, availability of crucial information. In order to do that particular task, he needs some information. So all the information has to provided by the company, or he himself has to gather those information, and getting required support from even the external sources has to support him from the to complete that task. So what an employee is expecting, if I have all the needful resources which I think as the factors which will lead to achieve the goal in a success way, I need these particular factors. So the employee is thinking in his mindset, if I get this, I will be doing a better job. For example, you think okay, you have promised your mom that you are going to make something, like for example, you are going to cook something, and you have promised that it will be delicious. So you have listed out some ingredients, and your mom has missed out 2 to 3 ingredients. So finally when the outcome is coming, so you would have told, yeah, I would make it better, it will be like this, and you have a imaginary picture in your mom's viewpoint. So at last when she starts eating, so she said, no, it's not to the level you have portrayed it. So you suddenly say, no, no, gave you a list of ingredients, you have missed out the 3 ingredients, because the 3 ingredients are not there, I couldn't do. So what is your, from your point of view, what is your expectation? If I get all these, it will be helpful for me to complete the given task. So in the point of view of an employee, he needs something, he needs some factors to be considered by the employer to complete his given job or a task. After that, it says instrumentality. So instrumentality is the faith that you, if perform well, then a valid outcome will be there. So instrumentality is something you have a faith on your employer, like if you do something anyway, you will be getting a good return in back. So, instrumentality is affected by factors such as belief in people who decide who receives what outcome, the simplicity of process, deciding who gets what outcome, and the clarity of relationship between performance and outcome. So, instrumentality is something you think whatever it's whatever the effort you make, you will be getting something in return. Okay, so in these 3 factors, one is the main point, that is the expectation. So in this one point is in 3 different meanings here, the same thing. This expectancy theory talks about the expectation, but the expectation is in splitted out in different viewpoints. So first they are talking about the valence. So valence, it says it's the significance associated by an individual about the expected outcome. So what they are saying is they are expecting something. If I do this, I will be receiving it. Expectancy is something to do that particular task or job. They need something to complete it. Instrumentality is something that, like, if your employer promises, okay, you have, if you have completed this particular project well, I will give you a promotion. So out of that, what you are trying to do, so you're like, you're expecting that as promised, or everything will be getting in return. Okay, so move to the next slide, Dylan. Okay, so for so the that expectancy theory is over. So the three beliefs is, so we say that as three beliefs. It's out of expectation. The three belief is: one, you have expectation. Valence, you have expectation. If you do it well, you will get something in return. Expectancy is something, you need something to complete a given task, so you expect that your employer will be, or the management will be providing you with that expectations. And third point, you are thinking as your employer promised, if you complete that task, you will be receiving a better reward after that. So next, Hensberg defines three avenues to improve staff motivation. So there are some other things. Now so far we learned what are the motivational theories, and these are some points which Hensberg gives to the management or the employers, how staff motivation can be enhanced. So the first point, it is talking about the job enrichment. So what job enrichment says is, job enrichment is a common motivational technique used by organization to give an employee greater satisfaction in his work. Job enrichment is a management concept that involves redesigning jobs so that they are more challenging to the employee and have less repetitive work. So as an employee, if you are doing the same job again and again, at one point you will get bored. So because you have a routine work, and you are doing that routine again and again, when from the morning 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock, sorry, morning 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock, if you all are doing the same thing again and again, so it will be a boring factor for you all as an employee. So to motivate yourself, what the employer can do is they can redesign your jobs. So redesigning means they can enhance few challenging tasks within your job. So that's what we say as enrichment. So they have to reduce the repetitive work and add some new task to it, but your designation will be the same, but only the task will be differing according to the challenges, right? So job enrichment attempts to give employee greater responsibility by increasing range and complexity of tasks they are called upon to complete and giving them to necessary authority. It motivates by giving employees the opportunity to use their ability to fullest. So what they are saying in the first point, it says it attempts to give greater responsibility. That means the management or the employer is trying to give additional responsibility in the given designation. Like, for example, your designation is not changed. For example, you are in the same position, but your task only will be differing. For example, how can I hear? Okay, you take a cake. Now you make a cake at home. So first you mix the mixture and bake it out and take. So the cake is ready. So to enrich that, if you just take the baked cake, it's the just cake. Now, for example, it might be a chocolate or a butter cake, you're taking it out. So after that, what you do, you cut it and you put icing. So that is one layer of enrichment. So you think that the employee is giving one more task or one more challenging role for you. After that, even after giving that icing, it's not completed. After, what you do, you do some decorations, you add some nuts, you add some fruits. So when you all are doing this, that cake, that plain cake, it is getting enriched. same as that, your job is same, like as the cake, as the baked cake, your job is the same. You're not doing anything in addition, but you're enriching it by giving new tasks, by giving new responsibilities, by giving new skillful activities. Like that, they are enriching your task by the uh, given responsibilities. After that, it motivates by giving employees the opportunity to use their abilities to the fullest. When these are like, when your management or the employer is giving you like more task, more challenging task, you will push yourself to do much more better. When you're pushing yourself to do much more better, what happens is your skills are getting emerged. Now, for example, you say you just come to work and you just record something, or you just type something and go, like you just have a document, set of documents, you have to daily type it and go. So the document will be there, you have to see it and type it. So far, if you are doing like this, it will getting bored for you. So later on, what you do, you add a new task, you give something to write on your own, you do some project to handle on your own. So when those things are given, your creativity tends to increase, and day by day your skill will be getting upgraded. So when you are doing a challenging work, when your skills are getting upgraded, you evolve within yourself, so that evolution gives you a greater satisfaction. So this is referred to as a job enrichment. When you're thinking job enrichment, you have to think about the cake, okay, in the online examination. So enrichment is something, the same thing is there, but you are doing an enrichment, you are doing some decorations. Even in your job, you are in the same position, but added with new responsibility and new challenges. That is enrichment. So next point, next staff, next okay, next we would move to the job enlargement. So enlargement means increasing the scope of the job through extending the range of duties and responsibilities, generally within the same level. Job enlargement means increasing the scope of a job through extending the range of its duties and responsibilities, generally with the same level of boundary. Job enlargement involves combining various activities at the same level in the organization and adding them to the existing job. So job enlargement is something you're in the same position, in the same level of hierarchy, but you are given with different levels of other diversified task, not relating to that particular task. So job enrichment, what we saw, in the same thing you're getting something adding for the same job, so that is enrichment. For the same thing you're enriching something. So enlargement means you're in the same position, but you are doing something diversified job. For example, okay, now you work in an okay, you work in an cosmetic company. For example, you are a salesperson there. What your job is to do the sales. So while doing the sales, as a sales representative, your job is to sell the product. So when you're selling the product, you're within the sales department. So since you're familiar with the sales department, what your boss or the manager or the senior person do is, they are giving a different role for you. That means what they will be doing, they will be giving you another job relating to the marketing, but you are still working as a sales executive. Also, you have to support to the marketing activities as well. So you have to do whatever the task which is need for the digital marketing. You have to create the flyers, and you have to design brochures, but you are in the same level of job, but a different category of work you are getting. Or like in the same company, you will get another job to do. So what they are saying is, like, you get diversified operations within an organization. That's what it says. Job enlargement means increasing the scope of the job by increasing the duties and responsibilities. So generally job enlargement involves in combining various activities at the same level. So you will have different activities at the same level of hierarchy. Let's say you are the middle level manager or the operational level staff. Being in the operational level itself, you will have different tasks to do. So that is job enlargement. Okay. So so next one is the job rotation. So job rotation is something, it's a management approach where employees are shifted between two or more assignments and jobs at a regular intervals of time in order to expose them to all verticals of an organization. Job rotation is a well planned practice to reduce boredom of doing the same job every day and explore the hidden potential of an employee. So, why job rotation they are doing is they always being shifted. So, I'll explain this with the example. Now, if you take any banks, if you see the person in the counter for, like, for example, 2 weeks, if you see a person in the counter, next time another person will be in the counter to handle the cash withdrawals or deposits. And other side, in the loan section or the pawning section, you will see the person who was in the counter. You know why they are doing is, one point is you have to get rid of the job boredom. Now if the same person is handling cash daily again and again and again, at a certain level of point he will get boredom and he will miss out some stuffs, and it will like, you won't improve your skill of your employee, and the employee would not know what are the operations undertaken within your organization. So what you do is you take that particular person and go and uh, shift to the loan section. So being assisting in the loan section, he would know what are the procedures to be undertaken to provide a loan. So he will be learning that section. After that, you will be shifted to the pawning section. Now if someone is pawning the jewelry, you will know how to value the jewelry and how the money has to be provided. So why they are doing all this is because when you do several types of jobs within an organization, easily you will be understanding the operations of an organization. When you are understanding the operation of the organization, one, your job boredom will be quitted out. You won't have job boredom, you will be willingnessly interestingly work out of it, and your potential you will identify, and you will identify which area is more comfortable in working, and in that area you can specialize yourself. After that, to go to higher positions and stuff, you have to generally know what are the like what are the tools and techniques, or what are the things you are using within your organization. So it says this process serves the purpose of both management and the employees. It helps the management to discover the talent of employees and determining what he or she is best at. As I told you, when you are doing several parts at the organization, you will understand what you are interested in, as well as the management will understand what is your capacity and capability. So according to that, they can decide upon your promotions and work stuff. After that, it says, on the other hand, it gives an individual a chance to explore his or her interest and gain experience in different fields of operations. So as an employee, without doing the same job again and again, you have a chance of exploring your own interest again and again by different operations, by doing different operations. Now for example, the employee who is working in the bank, he's working in all the sections, for example, the loan section, the counter, the pawning section, and the fixed deposit section, or some other like treasury bonds, issuing treasury bills and stuff. When you all are getting to know all the operations, you will feel good about yourself, you will be increasing your skills, you will be increasing your knowledge. At the same time, your job boredom will be quitted out, and you will have a good motivation to work within that organization. So this is all about the job rotation. So three things are there to motivate. One is job enrichment, one is job enlargement, and next one is job rotation. So enrichment means you enrich, remember that cake, you enrich something. That means onto that you put a icing, onto that you put some uh, fruits or something. So you're increasing the task and challenges. Enlargement means you're being at the same time and you're expanding. Just think like the rubber band or elastic, when you're increasing, it's getting enlarged. So you're being at the same level, but you're pushing yourself at enlarging. So enlarging, what you do, you give diversified work task. Job rotation, what you do, you give different tasks for the same person within an organization. So these are the three ways basically which Hensberg suggests to motivate the employees apart from the motivational theories, right? Did you all understand? Move to the next slide. I think this is much. So if you all having any doubt, yeah, this is all. So I have completed the chapter 8, which is motivation. If you have any doubts regarding the subject, you can ask. So I think no doubts since I didn't hear from you all. So shall we move to the next? So I have finished chapter 8 also. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8 is finished. So I think this is the seventh chapter. So seventh chapter is managerial authority. So I have completed. Just note down if you all just want. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 5, Chapter 6, Chapter 8 we have completed. So in the middle we have to complete 4 and 7. So I will be doing the seventh chapter now. So the seventh chapter, it says managerial authority. So under managerial authority, so we are going to discuss about what is power, what is authority, what is responsibility, what is delegation, what is conflict, and what are leadership activities. So keep in mind, so all these will be questioned in your online examinations. These terms are very vitally used within the online examination. So do remember what is this. While I'm explaining, since you all are not writing anything, if you just understand what I'm saying, just note it down in your own words. What is that? If I explain power, just have a short note so you can remember even after, when you just see that word, you will remember when you write on your own words. Like, just don't only listen to what I'm saying, have a pen, have a paper, and just have your own notes, okay? Short notes, so then only it will be remembering what I'm saying. If you just see like a movie, you can't understand what I'm talking about, okay? So I'll start. So power. So the term power, what is meant by power? Power has been an important aspect of human civilization. Power basically originates from position, authority, which can influence people both positively and negatively. For simplicity and understanding purpose, power is usually classified into following categories. So before moving into categories, I will tell what is power. So power is nothing a big word. It is simply, it says, it basically originates from a position or an authority. If you have an authority or a position which is influencing to control or influence other people, that is called power. as a president, he has some power due to his position. Due to his position, he has the authority of imposing certain rules and regulations to the country. So we have to abide the rules and regulations. Now the curfew is undergoing. So why we are abiding the rules and regulation? The person or the power or the authorized person is telling that we have to do this, means we have to do. Maybe it in a country, in the home, or in your workplace, wherever it is, the person who can influence you in a positive or a negative way is called as power. At school, who has the power within the classroom apart from the teacher? The monitor has, or the prefect has. So they has got power through their position, or they have the authority to influence the people in the negative way or a positive way. So power has been classified into the following categories. Next slide. Dilan, next slide. Okay, this is sorry, this is questioned in your online examination. So just whatever it is, everything is questioned. So if you take your textbook, it has a long chapter, so I have summarized this into important points, and I'm giving most of the things what I am explaining here comes to the online examination. So concentrate and listen. So cohesive power, it says this kind of power involves the usage of threat to make people to do what one desires. In the organizational setup, it translates into threatening someone with transfer, firing, demotions, etc. It basically forces people to submit to one's demand of fear of losing something. Cohesive power means you have a power of influencing some people. So for example, your boss or manager, if he has a cohesive power, he used that cohesive power to, now if your manager is saying something, a given project, if you don't do it on time, he is threatening you. That means he will say that I'll fire you out of the work, or he will depromote you, or he will transfer to another branch within your organization. So using this cohesive power, he is threatening you and getting that work done. So by forcefully, because of that threat, because you, like, you don't want to lose that job, you don't want to go to a branch transfer, so because you want to stay back at that branch, or you have to work to that particular set of colleagues, so you don't like to move. So because of this, you're tolerating something, and through the cohesive power, he's threatening you and making what he likes. So that is the cohesive power. So cohesive power means something they are influencing using their power in a, like, in a rude manner, we say, not a rude manner, not in a positive manner, maybe influencing in a negative manner by threatening, right? That is cohesive power. Next one is the reward power. So what is reward power? This type of power uses rewards, bonus, new projects, or training opportunities, better roles, and monetary benefits to influence people. In the cohesive power, what you are doing, you are threatening that I'll take you out of the work, I'll do a branch transfer, I'll quit you out of the work. So you're doing all this and taking a work done. Reward power is something you have the power to reward, which means you can provide bonus, you can assign your employee to a new project, you have much more opportunities to give to your employer. So here you're using your power to reward your employees. Through rewarding, you are influencing your employees in a positive way. That is reward power. Maybe it recognition, bonus, incentives, you can reward something. Next one is the legitimate power. So what you called as a legitimate power, this power emanates from the official position held by someone, be it in an organization or government, etc. So what do you mean by legitimate power? To the position they are holding. Like for example, in a government, if you take a member of parliament, he can discuss about the country issues, because he can talk opposite to the opponent party, because he has a legitimate power which he can like control. So for example, let's say you are the health minister, so you have control, you have a legitimate power. Using that legitimate power, so as a health minister you can impose that, yeah, okay, now due to this virus and stuff, the people's health will be getting affected, so you can stop the work and other activities which is routinely going within the country, so make and curfew like that. The health minister can suggest what he thinks according to his point of view. Also there are some, like financial minister can control of what are the financial activities. It's the fluctuation rates and those stuffs and all, he can take into control, and the countries exports imports, and they can take into consideration. Like this is into the government side. If you take into the organization, legitimate power relies within the top management as well as the middle management. All the higher authorities have the power of their legitimate power, which is generally derived from their uh, position, right? So the duration of this power is short lived, as a person can use it only till he or she holds that position, as well as the scope of the power is small, as it is strictly defined by the position held. For example, you take a president in Sri Lanka can be ruling for 5 years. So he can make the major decision, which is any country decision, he can make the major decisions. After that, if he is leaving that particular position, and if a new president comes, he has the authority. So the authority is not for the person, it is a legitimate power which is given to the position. So always you have to remember, the legitimate power relies on the position, not for the person. It is a lawful act which, now let's say for example, a CEO of the company might get changed. He can sell the shares, or the company might have changed, or like whatever. So the company does not relies on the person as a CEO. Okay, so the next person also will be the CEO to that particular person. Now who we call him as a chief executive officer, he is in charge of all the activities which is undertaken within the organization. So this is coming through the legitimate power. So cohesive power is something you influence people to do your job or task done by threatening them. Reward power, you use all your reward power by motivating, by giving rewards. And legitimate power is you get it out through your position, right? So that is legitimate power. Next we'll move to the next slide. Next one is the expert power. This is a personal kind of power which owes its origin to skills and expertise possessed by an individual, which of higher quality is not easily available. In such situation, the person can exercise the power and knowledge to influence people. Since it's very person specified and skills can be enhanced with time, it has more credibility and respect. So expert power means power comes out of the skill you have. Now, for example, if you have a particular unique skill, using that skill, you can show your power. That means within an organization, let's say you have an good analytical skills, so that good analytical skills you can use. Even your top level manager or the higher authorities can take you into their consultation or to the discussions, because you have got a good analytical power, analytical skill. So these analytical skills, where you got it from? To through enforcing your knowledge to upgrade and gathering more of a information and your way of thinking in out of the box. So these are coming from the expert power. So for example, one person within your organization who is relating to IT might have good knowledge about the IT. So someone has hacked your PC or some network issues are there, you can consult that particular person. Actually, his job role might be different. Like for example, he might be a software engineer developing softwares within your organization. When a similar case or scenario is undertaken within your organization, you can use that person, or that person can influence you all by through their sorry, through their skills and abilities, right? After that, expert power, you have to understand expert power comes with it by enhancing your knowledge and skills. After that, the referent power. So referent power, this is a power applied by celebrities and film stars, as they have huge following amongst masses who like them, identify with them, follow them. Sorry hence the exert lasting influence on a large number of people for a large number of decisions, like from what car to buy, which candidate to choose for a higher official in the country. So ex referent power means, now you use a person's personality or their, yeah, most of the time a person's personality, you use someone to influence. For example, if you see lots of television advertisements, they promote their products through using celebrities, maybe a cricket player or maybe a film star. They are mostly promoting using the film stars or the cricket players, because as they feel they are celebrities, they are very influential among the general public. So if that particular people are saying something, you will be listening. So that is called as the referent power. If Aishwarya Rai is showing that if you use Lux, you will become like Aishwarya Rai, some people will go and buy the Lux because they are influenced by Aishwarya Rai. So for example, so if for a bike advertisement, for a phone advertisement, if you all are using all the celebrities as your reference, so as a referent power, they have got power to influence people and make major decision on what you decide upon. Okay, so that is the referent power. So expert power is gaining out of knowledge, and referent power is coming out of the popularity you have amongst the general public. Right. So next we'll move to the next point. So next it talks about the authority. So we have identified what is power. So power is something we influence other people in a positive or negative way, and we saw the types of, what are the five types of powers. And now we'll move on to authority. So authority is something, so the power to give orders, to make decisions, the power to write or direct or control someone or something, the confident quality of someone who knows a lot about something or who is respected or obeyed by other people. So authority means you have the power because of the authority you are having. So if you are having authority, you, like for example, if you are the CEO, you have all the authority to make decision of your company. You have all the authority to direct or control the employee of a company. As a CEO, you have all the authorities to know about the company's operation. So authority is coming by the power you have within, right? So next, authority also may come from the position you hold with. Next. Next is responsibility. So what is responsibility? This refers to the obligation to perform any assigned duties. Now if someone is assigning you a duty, you have the responsibility. For example, I have the authority of choosing my own staff as a project team member. Okay, I can select, now I am the manager of an company, so I'm going to do a certain project for a temporary basis. So I can, so what I can do is I can select a team leader. So I have the authority to do. So what I am doing is I'm selecting a team leader and I'm giving him a responsibility to take that project to his hand and continue the project. So what is responsibility? A duty or obligation to satisfactorily perform complete task assigned by someone or created by own promise or circumstance that one must fulfill and which has the consequent penalty for failure. Okay. Now, as a manager, I am selecting a team leader. So, team leader has the responsibility to undertake the performance of the team members. So, as I have the authority, I have given or chosen that person as a team member. Now, the team leader is responsible to undertake the project. So, responsibility is something that a assigned duty or task is performed by a person. That is called responsibility. Next. After that, delegation. So, delegation is the assignment of any responsibility or authority to another person, normally from manager to subordinate, to carry out the specific activities. Okay, what is delegation means? Now, I'll tell the same story. I'm the manager. I have a project to be undertaken and I want it a successful project. So I am giving a project to a team leader, one of my employee. So that particular team leader is having the responsibility to complete that project. So he has few team members who is working with him. So, as a team leader, he has the authority to delegate his work to one of the team leader. For example, say the team leader won't be in the country for a team leader won't be in the country for 5 to 6 days. He'll be out of the country. Let's say like that. So he's giving the work to one of his very close teammates, saying, I won't be in the country, so you have to do what boss has required, that what has our manager required, he is giving. So what he is doing, he is delegating something to his subordinate or his peer, and he is giving the responsibility. Finally, that person has failed the project. Now with whom, now the manager is asking why the project is being failure. So the team leader can't say, I have assigned it to the other person, I have delegated the responsibility to the other person, so he is only responsible for your question. He can't say that. You can delegate your work, but you can't delegate your responsibility. You are liable to answer to the manager, not the person who you have delegated the work. You have all the authority to delegate the work, but you can't make the responsibility to be shifted. Always remember, work can be delegated. Delegation means what? If you have authority to shift the work to someone else, you can do that. That is delegation. Now let's say I am a manager, I have a task to do. I am delegating my task to a I am delegating my task to my assistant manager. So I can delegate, but I can't tell that he is responsible for that. So whatever the action my assistant manager is doing, I am responsible for his own actions. I have to inform it to the boss or the CEO, right? So there is something difference between delegation and responsibility. So responsibility is something you do a assigned task, that is responsibility. Delegation is something you assign a given responsibility. So remember this story, don't complicate it. It's very clear. Manager has given the responsibility to the team leader. Team leader has delegated to the team member. Once the project is finished, maybe in a positive way or negative way, all the responsibility goes to the team leader, not the person who he has delegated, right? So authority lies within the manager, and delegation is done by the project leader to the subordinate. And if it is a negative or positive way, who is responsible to answer? The uh, team leader is responsible to answer. So hello, what? Hello, I can't hear you. Who is this? Hello,
யார் லைன்னு தெரியல மிஸ்.
யார் என்ன கேட்டாங்க? டவுட்டா?
ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் யாரும் டவுட் கேட்டீங்களா நீங்க?
யாரோ கதைச்சு கேட்டுச்சு எனக்கு இப்ப.
நான் கேட்கல.
யாரோ இப்ப கதைச்சு கேட்டுச்சே இப்ப.
சரி மிஸ், யாரோ பை மிஸ்டேக் அன்மியூட் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க. சோ வீட்ல கேட்ட சத்தம் கேட்டது போல. ஓகே, கண்டினியூ பண்ணுங்க.
Okay. So delegation is something you delegate your responsibilities. So hope you all are understanding what is the concept between delegation, responsibility and authority. Next I will move to the conflict. So what conflict is? Conflict is the difference of ideas or opinions in a team consisting of people from different backgrounds and with different skills and experience. Is likely that you will experience some form of conflict. So what they are saying, in an organization you may have conflict. Why you may have conflict? Because different people are working from different backgrounds and they have different skills and they have different experiences. One person is telling their opinion. If other person is opposing their opinion or idea, then the conflict will be occurring. So as employees we have to identify, or not employees, as human beings we have to identify all people have their own opinion, own ideas, own belief, and they have their own skills and experience. All of them are unique, so we can't expect other person has to think as we are thinking. So the main reason why a conflict is occurring is because there is a difference between ideas and opinion. That is called as conflict, right? So next slide. I think now it's 6:29. So I will stop with this. So 7 actions of logics I will explaining in the next class. I will continue the slide in next class. Dylan, just move. How many slides are there just to see? Dylan?
3 slides.
Only 2?
3 have.
3 slides. Okay, now it's 6.
Action and
7 action means I think it will go to 3 slides. So, okay, I will be continuing in the next class.
okay miss.
Okay. Students, you can ask doubts for now. So what we have discussed in chapter 8 or chapter 7 you can ask. So chapter 7 there are few more to complete. Next class I will be completing. Here for your kind information, I think all the students know this. The online session which I am taking, if I have completed this particular chapter, after the curfew is over, I won't be doing it once again at class. So keep that in mind. Okay, so whatever the things which I have missed in the online session only I will be doing in the class, as well as I will be having a written examination before you go to the online examination, just to check whether you have prepared or not. So at home don't waste your time, just like study the slides. Okay, and okay, it's open up to you all. You can ask any questions if any.
ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் ஏதாவது கேட்க இருந்துச்சுன்னா மிஸ்டர் கேளுங்க. டவுட்ஸ் எதுவும் இருந்துச்சுன்னா கிளியர் பண்ணிக்கொள்ளுங்க.
nothing.
டவுட் இருக்கா? தமிழ்ல கேக்கலாம்.
நீங்க வேண்டிய லாங்குவேஜ்ல கேட்கலாம், பரவாயில்ல, கேளுங்க, என்ன டவுட்?
இல்ல சிங்களத்துல எல்லாம் கேட்க இயலாது. சிங்களம் எனக்கு தெரியாது.
மிஸ் நான் டிரான்ஸ்லேட் பண்றேன் மிஸ்.
அப்படியா? எல்லாருக்கும் இந்த கிளாஸ் கிறிஸ்டல் கிளியரா விளங்குதா டிலான்? இல்லாட்டி ஒன்றுமே விளங்குது இல்லையா? ஒரு டவுட் கேக்குறாங்க.
டவுட் கேக்குறேன்னு சொல்லுங்க. ஹலோ மிஸ்.
யா,
குட் ஆஃப்டர்நூன்.
குட் ஆஃப்டர்நூன்.
நான் வந்து இந்த கிளாஸ் இன்னைக்கு தான் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிக்கிறேன். நான் மத்த கிளாஸ்ல இந்த பார்ட்டிசிபேட் பண்ணல. அப்ப ஆன்லைன்ல வருமா யூடியூப்ல?
யா, யூடியூப்ல
அப்லோட்
ஆன்லைன்ல
பண்ணிருக்கு.
இருக்கும். அப்லோட் பண்ணிருக்கு.
சரி மிஸ். தேங்க் யூ மிஸ்.
ஓகே.
நீங்க நிஷாந்தன் சார்ட்ட கதைங்க, அது என்ன மாதிரி அப்படி பாக்குறதுன்னு சொல்லி, சோ மேபி அவங்க சொல்லிருப்பார்.
ஓகே.
சோ அதுல போனீங்க சொன்னா சப்ஜெக்ட் வைஸா பிரிச்சு பார்க்கலாம். ஓபி சப்ஜெக்ட்ல போனீங்கன்னா இவ்வளவு காலம் ஆன்லைன்ல செஞ்சது அவ்வளவு இருக்கு.
தேங்க் யூ.
ஓகே மிஸ், உங்களுக்கு ஒரு அவார்டே தரணும் மிஸ் இந்த ஆன்லைன் கிளாஸ் முடிய.
யாருக்கு?
உங்களுக்கு தான் மிஸ்.
டிலான்,
ஸ்டூடண்ட்ஸ்க்கு ஒரு கேள்வியும் வராம படிச்சிருக்கீங்க.
அது தாண்டில எனக்கும் தெரியல. விளங்குனனால கதைக்காம இருக்கலாங்களா, விளங்காதனால கதைக்காம இருக்கலாங்களான்னு தெரியல. பாப்போம்.
இவ்வளவு நேரத்துக்கு கதைக்காம கேட்க பார்க்க ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் போனை வச்சுட்டு எங்கேயோ போயிட்டாங்க போல இருக்கு.
என்னன்னு தெரியல. பாப்போம். ஆன்லைன் எக்ஸாம் செய்யதான் தெரியும். You are here. அப்பே
பரிமளா மட்டும் இருக்குது. பரிமளாவும் உமரும் இருக்குது. உச்சோத்தரை காண இல்ல.
No, miss, I mean, yeah.
நீங்களும் இருக்க. துலக்ஷானி அவவும் இருக்கா.
Miss, I am also here.
Anita is also there.
அனிதாவும் இருக்கிறாங்க. மிச்சாக்கள் இல்ல.
Miss, நானும் இருக்கேன்.
எல்லாரும் இருக்கிறீங்க. சரி மிஸ், படிப்பிச்சது விளங்கிட்டுதா?
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
No doubts.
No
கர்ஃபியூ
doubt.
முடியட்டும். எல்லாம் விளங்குதுன்னு சொல்றதுக்கு கர்ஃபியூ முடியட்டும். இப்ப ரெடி ஆகுது ஆன்லைன். என்னது ரிட்டன் எக்ஸாம் பேப்பர் இப்ப வீட்ல இருந்து ரெடி பண்றேன். கர்ஃபியூ முடிஞ்ச உடனே ரிட்டன் எக்ஸாம்.
அதுக்கு சரியான
ரிட்டன் எக்ஸாம்ல பாஸ் பண்றாங்கல தான் ஆன்லைன் எக்ஸாம்ல விடுறதா?
மிஸ் பாஸ் எல்லாம் இல்ல மிஸ்.
முடியாது மிஸ்.
95%
அந்த நம்பிக்கை பாத்தீங்களா? கர்ஃபியூ இப்போதைக்கு முடியாதா?
Miss, written exam question இல்லாட்டி MCQ வா?
Question.
Okay.
மிஸ் MCQ தானே நல்லம்.
MCQ நல்லம். MCQ ஆப்ஷன் செலக்ட் பண்றதுக்கு விஷயம் தெரியுதான்னு எழுதி பாப்போமே. எழுதி என்ன ஐடியால இருக்கீங்கன்னு பாப்போமே.
இல்ல ஆசைப்படுது மிஸ். ஒருக்கா ரிட்டன் எக்ஸாம் வைங்க, ஒருக்கா MCQ வைங்க, ஒருக்கா வைவா வைங்க.
இல்ல சார், இட்ஸ் ஓகே மிஸ். படிச்சு கொடுக்கறது 100% வேலைக்கு தானே எந்த எக்ஸாம் ஆனாலும் செய்யலாம்.
அதான் மிஸ், நீங்க படிச்சு கொடுக்கறதுல எக்ஸாம் வச்சு 95% மேல மார்க்ஸ் எடுக்கலாட்டிக்கு கொட்டேனாவும் 3 ரவுண்ட் சுத்தி வர விட்டா சரி.
Okay. அப்ப என்ன students, shall I leave then?
Yes miss. Be safe miss.
Okay miss.
I think you have cold.
Yeah, I'm not well today. பரவாயில்லையே, பரிமளா அவ்வளவு தூரத்துல இருந்து கண்டுபிடிச்சிருச்சு மிஸ்ஸுக்கு சரியில்லை, உடம்பு சரியில்லைன்னு.
I am your student now miss. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for your concern and understanding. Okay, have a
Thank you, miss.
safe
Bye,
evening.
miss.
Bye.
Bye
Good night.
miss. God
Thank
bless
you miss. Bye.